Hello and welcome to Rallying the Forge. I'm Solymr, and in this episode we are going to be talking about the JedForge Competitive Circuit, and we're going to be looking at that and the decks that all the players are playing. So don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm going to not, hopefully it doesn't go too long, but I'm going to be looking at all 16 decks and giving my thoughts on them. So if you are watching and you have one of the decks, don't take it personal if I don't like your deck. You know, it's fair to be critical. You can be critical of my deck as well. So, just going to put that out there. So let's look at, well, let's start with the JedForge thing here first. So, it's a best of 3 double elimination bracket. He's running it through challenge. So, it's really nice because it gives us more flexibility than the SolForge event website portion does. As you can see, a lot of matches have gone on. We already have Traveler in the finals. He's waiting to see who he's going to play in the finals. And everyone else who's lost is going to have to go through. You can see various players here have advanced up in the losers bracket. So some of the matches obviously have been streamed or recorded and put up on YouTube. If other people have put up videos on YouTube, I'll be copying them and putting them up on my YouTube channel as well. So keep an eye open for those. I'll have my matches when I play them. I have my first 2, of course. I've got Carl and Jed's. I'll have Carl and Anovis. I'll have Jed and Wayne. Jed and Carly. I imagine I'll have Carl and Traveler. I'll have all these matches that they're recording. I'm going to copy their stuff and use it. I think Bryce has been recording, so we'll get some of Bryce's matches in there. Anyone who's been recording, I'll use their stuff, and we'll get those matches up over time. So you can actually see the matches. I'm just figuring out the format I want to do all of them in. So, nonetheless, you can see everyone competing. And, you know, 2 losses. Once you're down here and you lose in the losers bracket, you're out. So everyone's on their last leg here. A lot. It's funny, if you win your matches out, you only have to win 4 matches to get to the finals, and then you're there. If you lose anywhere along the way, you have a lot more matches to go through to get back there. So yeah, definitely easier just to win, right? So let's start with the decks, and I'm just doing this, and there's no particular order other than what Jed gave me the deck lists in. He pulled the info from challenge and gave it to me, or maybe gave it to everyone. I don't remember where he put it, but so I just went in order of those from there down. So there's no order to this other than what Jed sent it to me. So this first deck we're looking at here is Change of Heart YGG. And this is a double scientist fuse. Let me make sure you guys can see. Yeah. So I don't know which Forgeborn everyone's necessarily playing. Some of them I have ideas on, and I may comment on that. But I don't necessarily know which Forgeborn they are playing for sure. And I may not click through all the cards here. You can always look them up through the SolForge website. And some of them you may already know what they do anyhow. But obviously it's a double scientist fuse. So it's Beakers and Bones for both. We have Veraldo, of course, in the Necreum half, Queen's Assassin. We have a Vicious Technocrat. I will click on that one to see his stat lines. So obviously the Technocrat, when an annoying creature comes into play, he gets pumped. And Vicious, of course, means his level 3. He's going to start with really high base stats, and then he's getting +4/+4 for each alloying creature from there on. So he's already big with Vicious at level 3. Now he's going to be growing really quickly to be Gorgaius and Terrapath sized quickly and shortly thereafter. I guess that's the thought process here. The deck does have a Sonic Burst, which can be nice depending on your matchup. The deck has some warrior synergy with Veraldo, Queen's Assassin. The Strider is a warrior, and then you have Assassin from on the Alloying side, for example. This deck has some replacement synergies, but neither of those are like standout. Neither of those are standout synergies that are like what make the deck go, so to speak. He's also got a sequencer in here, which can be useful. So there's some potential with the sequencer. This doesn't lean into any one theme terribly strongly. Even the scientist, the scientist theme with it is like secondary, not even third tier on this deck. It's 2 scientist decks, and the scientist theme is nowhere to be found within the deck. It has scientists, sure, but what does that do for you? Nothing. So that's one of the reasons why these legendary drops have been hit and miss, and there's some good things about some, but not others, and they try to correct things as they're doing these, and they just haven't been as good as I would have thought they were. I guess I keep finding myself being disappointed with the legendary drops overall. But like I said, the closest thing it leans into is warriors, oddly enough. But even that's not strong enough of a build for it to do a whole lot. Your only thing there is really Veraldo wants warriors on the board for her to be strong. The Technocrat wants Alolan creatures to come on the board. So I would honestly look, I don't dislike the Necrium half so much. I think it's interesting and could definitely be something to use and build with. But I would look for a different Necrium half, but not Necrium, Alolan half, sorry. To find something that maybe generates more minions or more creatures quickly. You have the Nano Swarm, for example. If you have a scientist play, which is one of the good things with scientists there, you get 2 gizmos. You get 2 mega gizmos. In this case, you just pump your non-minion creatures with stats, but you also get the 2 mega gizmos no matter what. So that's a good one to have, but you could have Energy Surge. You can have a Drix. You can have things like Operator for when scientists die that you're going to get gizmo minions. Just lots of other ways that you can generate things for the Technocrat. I feel like you're leaning heavily into the Necrium is your stronger half in that case. If you could find a Drix Apocamancer type deck with a lot of minion stuff going on, that'd be a really good pairing for this, in my opinion. But it's all a matter of what do you have in your collection, right? So that's my take on the deck. I don't know which Forgeborn they're using. I would speculate they're using the Nyx, but I don't know. So overall, it's just an okay deck. Could it go off? Certainly, but I just don't see it as a big threat in this case, and I don't like the Alolan half so much for the pairing. I think there could be better out. There are better out there, but again, matter of what you have in your collection, right? All right, so that's Change of Heart YGG's deck. Next up, we have GanonWayne. So we have, of course, right off the bat, you can see Drix. We have, this is a scientist half, and then it's just a set 2 Necrium half paired with it. He's got an Operator with the Drix, which is really nice. I like that. Really like that, honestly. Then the Necrium half, we've got Stitcher, Shambler. You can look through all this stuff. We got plenty of minions. We've got some reanimation here. Lots of replacement synergies. So again, Necrium Alolan, but it's missing a Apocamancer, and I know it's gonna be hard to get an Apocamancer, Drix, and Operator all in the same deck, but you could go with Betrayer, Apocamancer here with the Necrium half. But again, what you have in your collection is going to be, that's going to determine how, what your options you have, right? So For the spells, I like the Necrim spells. I think they're okay. Only 3 though, but it's still 3 good spells in my opinion. The Aloin half, not really big on these spells. So you do have a Betrayer Stone Skin, but I just don't like the spell package overall. It's nice you have 5 spells, but I don't like most of them. I'd rather, there's a lot of other spells I would desire than some of these. So, like I said, I like the creatures in this half. Don't like the spells, but you could work with it if you could find, like if this had a Betrayer Apocamancer in it, this would be a really good list in my opinion, or potentially a really good list. You know, Doom Stitcher, the Abyssal Poltergeist, those can do some good things for you. I know he was using the Keeper of the Damned with the Shambler to proc the Shambler by sacrificing minions to themselves to become themselves. So there's some stuff here. It's just not going to be enough for this competitive circuit, in my opinion. Okay, so let's go on to the next deck then. And the next deck we have is TCG Jeff's. So he's got an Arboris deck here. But other than that, if you look closely, it's a double shamble. It's life gain centric. Doesn't have a lot of spells, only 6 spells total. Feels creature heavy. I feel like obviously he's trying for an Arboris payoff here. Also Swamp Moss Lurkers in the deck. So it does have some minion generation with a Biologist in the deck, which can be good. Typically Arboris decks though are not competitive, truly competitive, and they take a lot of... You have to have a really, really, really good other half deck with a lot of life gain to really be able to try to get the Arboris to work in a competitive environment. You know, against new players or players who don't know how to play the game, yeah, you can get that to go off all day long. But competitively, not really going to happen. And his Arboris half, which is typical of it, could set 2, doesn't have a lot of life gain. You got Botanimate, that might be it. So you have Botanimate, maybe the Oros has some life gain, maybe? No? So, yeah, that's not much else to say about the deck. It's definitely looking to get the Arboris payoff. It doesn't have a whole lot else if it doesn't get the Swamp Moss Lurker and Arboris going at all in any shape or form. Then he's going to be looking at a minion strategy, and even that's just like you're going to be looking at trying to get shambling going and getting things to die frequently so you can get the shamble payoffs. So otherwise, it's just a double shamble deck with a lot of minion generation in lump. So interesting deck though. All right, next up we have Veraldo's deck, and he has an interesting. It's a double soothing with a kindred Aether Root. So Aether Root, of course, when you gain health, you give this health equal to the amount gained, and then when you gain health, you also give it plus attack and defense, or attack and health at each level, of course. So that's really neat and a really cool kindred creature to get, honestly. But his pairing for it does not make sense to me. He's only got 5 spells total in the deck, so that's something I do not like with it. Although it does have Vampiric Hunger, does have Hunting Hour, and then so you do have that for life gain, but you don't have anything else for life gain from the creature side of Necrim there. So I feel like you could find a lot of, obviously set 1 decks could be loaded with life gain options for Necrium. So I feel like this deck I like. I'm interested, don't say I necessarily like, I'm interested in the Utera half deck. I think it could maybe be something decent. You have a Charger, a Stegon on Alpha, Soothing Elk can be nice, Soothing Bartok, Roaring Slayer. So you got some good creatures here to potentially play. The spells leave a little bit to be desired. But you do have the health gain going, and then you just need a better Necrium half, in my opinion. Get a really good Necrium half to go with it, and I think you might have something. Obviously, hard removal is going to get rid of your Aether Root, but you're also gaining health. So they're going to need to be able to bring you down. So, and if you work with depending on what Necrium half you work with, life gain and drain is a thing for them, so you could be draining them while you're gaining, and you're creating that gap anyway while they're focused on your Aether Root, trying to get rid of that, or other creatures. You're just killing them all slowly. So I would definitely be looking for a different Necrium half. Okay, next up we have Antofa's deck, and he has a Mantis Forge Seal deck here, and then we have, it's got a Spring Dryad, it's got the Swamp Moss Lurker. The deck with the Mantis and Forge Seal likes to pump his board up. He likes to play a lot of minions. He likes Oak Fathers, especially. He can play a bunch of Oak Fathers with the Cycle 3 Forgeborn ability. He definitely uses Nova with this half here. But it's really strong early cycles, 1 and 2, but it wears off in cycles 3 and 4. So if you can survive into cycles 3 and 4 against it, you could be in a good position. So his Necrium half, not a whole lot to talk about with it, really. It does have a Devouring creature. It's got Vampiric Banshee in particular. The Corrupt Reaper. The Reaper could be nice, but at the same time it's corrupt, so it's kind of iffy in that regard. It's got a Skeleton, which is good at level 3 if you're leveling it up, but otherwise it's got a bunch of utility type creatures. The spell package for it is okay, but not great. I'm not huge on Varna's Pact, but if you get some minions out there, it can definitely, which his deck typically does with Lycian Rain and Nova's Dominion. You can get some removal going on the board there. He does have Botanimate. So the spells are overall, it's only 6, but it's still decent spells, at least. But I feel like you just have to survive early against this deck from the early pressure. If you do, then you'll get the win later in the match. Or you have the potential to anyway. So, all right. The next deck we have up is Ithai, and it is a double Chain Lightning deck. But there's not a whole lot in the form of free spell plays other than Stormcaller, maybe. So that's disappointing, but at the same time, I understand if you're going for double Chain Lightning, you only have so many options with the Betrayer deck, and then you have obviously just whatever you have for the Tempest half. So to me, this deck looks more like a fun deck than a competitive deck. That's just my take on it. I have not played against it, I don't think. But I just don't see a whole lot of synergies for anything going on here with any of the cards, other than the Chain Lightning, and then even then it doesn't have enough to go with it, I think, for it to really go off. Chain Lightning, it kind of has a single turn Thundercrash Field effect on your board, so I would be looking to pair this with like a Thundercrash Field deck that has really good spell package, and You know, that'd be one way to go about it, I suppose. Obviously, you have to use this Betrayer half if that's the only one you have, and they're hard to come by, so there is that, but I just don't think the pair, nothing stands out to me as anything working together for a greater good other than maybe just trying to overrun your opponent with your creatures and their attack, but I don't see it. Alright, next deck we have BionicSoup, Jed's deck. It is an RC deck. No Darkheart Sorcerer, but he does have a Doom Shambler, which is a cool combination. The deck does have, in my opinion, good removal options. It's got good modifiers on some of the creatures, and I feel like it definitely relies on the RC to win its matchups, aside from maybe the level 3 Doom ability, which you can see pulled up here. So it can destroy another one of your creatures to deal damage equal to its attack to a creature or player. It's not its printed attack, it's its current attack. So you can buff something, say like RC itself, get it up to 20 attack, sack it, you can do 20 damage to their face. He does have a Stampeding Stormling here, which I think is up to 15. So there is that. Like I said, he's got a lot of removal options. You got Disintegrate, Ice Storm, Dreadbolt. Then he's got things like Devour Soul, Broodfang. He's got a Walker in the deck. So he's got a lot of things to control the board state, open up lanes for him. I like the spell package. Burnout, Disintegrate, Ice Storm, Warbringer Ritual, all great spells for the Tempest half. Dreadbolt, Runescarred Pit, Devour Soul are good for Necrim. Not big on Grave Pack, but it can be useful. Thankfully, it starts off with a good amount of attack and health reduction. So it's not, if you don't level it up, it's not worthless the rest of the game. It doesn't grow to be anything really great. The level 1, though, later in the match can still be good. So obviously he can't control this, and we all dream of stuff like this, but obviously instead of the Stormling or the Worm, perhaps, or maybe instead of the Mystic, I would rather have like a Furious Shard back in the deck. That would really make this really, really, really good, in my opinion. So he doesn't have a lot of ways to proc the RC, flip it over. So that is interesting. So he's going to be relying on getting elementals through, or he's only got a handful of cards though to proc it, and it's not. So I don't know how consistent this is, how much it flips it, how much it relies on the RC to actually win. Looking at it, it looks like it needs it, because the rest of the creature package just isn't strong enough, in my opinion. The Ghoulish Drake is neat. Ghoulish is a cool modifier. Of course, Bite Maiden for some free spell plays, potentially. But definitely think the deck is strong. Just don't know about the consistency and how much it leans on RC to actually win. So, and obviously the Doom Shambler could be a nice win con, the Shambler itself, of course, but the Doom portion could be really good at level 3, depending on how the board's playing out. So, yeah. Alright, so the next deck is Tomato Red Eyes. This is his Blotley Varos combination. So that's not a whole lot of fun to play against if you're unaware of it. He does have a Cersei Bones of Soulless Soul Swap. So he does have a late game mechanism to pull off a win. He does have a Shambler in the deck. He has lots of upgrading with Stroke of Genius and System Upgrade, which are both great cards from set 4 for Aloyan. He does have some reanimation with River Souls, Ghastly Renewal, and His downside with the deck is he only has Dreadbolt for removal, for hard removal. He does have, obviously, Pummel Pack. He's got Fire Squad, potentially, to help with some removal. But nothing else that... nothing else for hard removal. So it's limited in that regard. And he's going to be relying on his Blotley Varos combo to try to bring his board back and keep bringing things back to fill up his board, and you're going to be struggling to keep up because he can bring more stuff back than you, is the theory. He also has a Harvester Operator combo, so when you do kill Scientists off, he's going to be getting potentially a 5/5 or an 8/8 or a 12/12 minion back on the board if they're both out there. So he's got a lot of things going for it. The deck is half decent, and if you have a Blotley and a Varos, you can find your pair and create something like this as well. The ultimate combo would be a Betrayer Blotley with a Riven Varos, or a Blotley with a Betrayer Riven Varos in the same half deck. So that would be the dream. But you know, it looks like, for me, the deck has a lot of paths it can go, and it may end up being able to go all of them, but at the same time, I feel like it needs a lot of pieces for it to really go off. I feel like he can hang around a lot longer than you would think with everything that he has going on, and I feel like like I said, I feel like he wants to overwhelm your board. He keeps his board full, and through attrition, he's going to wear you down. He'll be able to bring stuff back, and he's right back at it. So obviously the Varos and the Blotley, controlling those two cards are very important to this whole thing. Operator and Harvester, controlling those as well. So obviously a control style deck could do well against it, perhaps, but could also get overwhelmed too. I don't feel like he has any real finishers besides the Shambler, or if he gets the Soul Swap, becomes Soul Reaver, and he can swap health with a player and a creature. So that's what I've got for this deck. Like I said, lots of upgrade, so he's definitely be upgrading everything if he's not playing it. So he'll have lots of things to bring back with the Blotley or Ghastly Renewal later in the match. All right, our next deck is Skull Crusher. So he has a Furious Shardback reanimation style deck. He's got a Hantu in here, which is one of his sources of reanimation, of course. And then the deck only has 4 spells, so obviously it leans very creature heavy, which is not great. And he only has 2 ways to bring back a Shardback. It's Hantu and the River of Souls. So once he uses up the River of Souls, you can just pay health to keep the Shardback off the board. He has lots of ways to proc a Shardback, though. He's got the Magus, he's got the Commander. Obviously, it's a Furious Shardback, so itself it can proc itself. So he does have that going for him, so you can get a lot of value out of them when he does get them down. I feel like he needs more spell options in the deck, and he needs more reanimation options. 2, and one of them being Hantu, is not going to be enough, in my opinion, for consistency. Sure, he can draw really well and win lots of matches with it. I don't disagree. I'm playing a very similar deck. But if you don't draw the Shardback, what do you really have? And he just has a creature-heavy deck that, Hantu can do some work on his own. Don't get me wrong. When you're talking competitive decks, if you're not drawing one of the 2 cards, his Hantu or Shardback, then all you have to do as the other player is control the one he does get out there. And if you can control it, then it makes life a lot easier. He doesn't have a whole lot else going for it, honestly. He does have the Sack Chamber, which can produce some additional health gain for him and damage, but his deck definitely relies on getting the Shardback out there. Next up, we have Gambit 184's deck, Carl's deck, and this is totally not up Carl's alley in my opinion. Totally was. I didn't look at decks beforehand until I was going to face him. Then I saw it and I was like, this is not typical Carl, but it's definitely a interesting and good fuse. So it's got a Dark Forge half with a regular set 2 half. He's got a, of course, Biologist, and the Utera half there, and he's got a Thunder Crash Field, Elementalist Ritual, Flame Jet's a nice spell to have as well, but it's definitely a minion-centric pump deck. It's gonna pump and ping is what I'd call it. The Thunder Crash Fields, of course, creatures in those lanes, when they gain attack, they do 2 damage to your opponent, and you can have 3 of them out there in this deck because you don't have Betrayer, but you know, three of your lanes pinging your opponent constantly. The Biologist constantly pumps minions. Spell plays pump the spell sprites, and he can pump that damage up with Elementalist Ritual for non-combat damage. So if you don't know what this card does, if you have an elemental in play, you get to choose 2, but you can do non-combat damage you deal this turn is increased by 2. And then you can do either 3 damage to a creature or player, or 2 damage to all non-elemental creatures. So depending on the state of the board, you can directly target something for extra points of damage, or all other creatures if you only have elementals on the board. But a nice, can be a direct damage spell, plus all your pings for the increase in attack are going to be increased by 2, so it goes from 2 to 4. This will make it 5, that'll make it 6. Every time you increase their stats, if you got a Flame Jet, you do this, then a Flame Jet. Dark Forge Loyalty can be free, Tempest Loyalty can be free, so you got a bunch of free spells here. You could potentially have that hand, that's 4 spells in 1 turn, and you could be doing at level 3 anyway, 6 damage per ping. If you have 3 Thunder Crash Fields out there with spell sprites, that would be 18 times 4, what's that, 72 damage or something like that. So not to mention, if you did 7 damage to a creature play, it'd be 11 to their face, so you could do 83 damage like that. And if your other card that you had was another spell, you'd be doing another 18. So you'd be doing what, 101 damage to them potentially at cycle and level 3. So even a good health gain deck might struggle against this if they let you get a board like that going. So I will say he's got a lot of things to fill the board and pump his minions. Like, you know, he's got a Mimic Worm to help fill up the board, fill empty lanes out. It's really helpful for later in the match. He's got some damage options to help control the board as well with the Serum Mecha Mage, the Dark Forge Loyalty. He's got some good-sized creatures. He does have Veraldo Fury to potentially get a free spell play out as well. So I feel like this deck, though, is susceptible to good life gain decks that could just maybe outlast him. If they can prevent him from being able to get the spell sprites or spell swarms in those Thunder Crash field lanes, obviously that will prevent him from being able to go off later in a match. But not that he couldn't do some damage, but you really need a really good health gain deck, I think, to survive against this. And then I think control decks that don't take too much damage early can do well against this deck. And then also other aggressive decks that can apply pressure faster than his deck can. If his deck can't get set up right away and he's got to deal with that pressure, it's going to put him at a disadvantage because he does, with the Descendants Biologist, he's got a Warped Fortrex, so they do damage to him, and he has to handle that. So I think there's lots of ways to beat his deck. His deck's really good. Obviously, he went all the way up until he got to Traveler before losing. But he had some really close matches all the way through, I think. And he'll be waiting for whoever wants to try to get to Peter, or he'll get to face Peter again and see if he can't take Peter down. But it's a really, really good deck and a good idea. So if you're someone with just an average collection, this could be a kind of deck you look to go build with a Thundercrash Field and a Biologist. He's got 3 free spells. That's going to be hard to find, but especially one with a Tempest Loyalty and a Darkforge Loyalty. The Tempest Loyalty is Betrayer, of course, but pairing it with the Tempest half in particular. But there's other things out there that you could potentially get and do. So, but you might be able to find a pairing of yours that can be good, and maybe it's not going to be top level competitive, but it could be a really strong build that you can use to play against other people and have a chance and have some fun with. So definitely a deck you should add to your list of things to look for, in my opinion. Very, very good creative build. Okay, next up we have Tsuaurym's deck. This is a Mantis, a Pocketmancer with a Voss. He's got some life gain, but it's not really the focus. So to me, this is just a mid-tier Pocketmancer deck. It's got some other elements, but doesn't really lean into anything in particular. No strong direction into any one thing. I have a recent match against him where he played this against me and he won because I was being too overly cautious with something and trying to maximize value instead of just doing what I should have done. But had I done what I should have, he would have lost that match. But the deck could definitely go off. Any Pocketmancer deck can really go off. The Voss helps with that, of course. It's like a worse version of Drix, maybe, but lets you do some different things too. He does have some minion generation, so it gives him replaceable targets. He does have a sequencer in the deck, which of course can help against like RC decks or decks with River of Souls or things of that nature. So it's got some things with it. The Kindred Mantis, the Mantis is more the important part there, but and he doesn't have a whole lot of health gain, but it does have some. Spells wise, it's okay. But overall, I think it's just a mid-tier a Pocketmancer deck with some additional elements to it. Next up, we have IronBrice. Of course, we've got the Bloodshade Sisters, Verlana and Varia. He's got the legendary version of Verlana, not the standard set 4 version of Verlana. So this is double warrior decks that he's paired up. It's got a really... I really like the Necrium spell package for this. I think it's great. And then the Tempest spell package leaves a lot to be desired. So it does have a Betrayer Captain, which is nice for warriors. Pumps them up. If you played a spell, it gets a little boost as well. The deck feels slightly creature heavy. It's got 7 spells in it though, so it's borderline, you're never going to have 10 and 10 all the time. But 7's not bad. 7's obviously better than 6 or 5 or lower, but 7 still feels on the light end. But it's got lots of warriors. It'd be nice if it had, instead of Furious Worm or Furious Shardback, every deck would be better with Furious Shardback, wouldn't it? I like the Necrium deck, though. It's got the Bloodshade, of course. It's got a KC Kid, Grimgone Predator, Betrayer Abyssal Justicar. So I feel like the Necreum half, really solid. The Varia half isn't bad. I don't know if it's really great. I do not like the spell package. Definitely don't like Guardian's Wall, but it's not horrible with Varia, obviously. Reducing attack, she can make them be destroyed. You got Lightning Ritual, which lets you play Lightning Ruins, which puts an Exalt on the board. So Primordial Slam, of course, works well with Warriors too, but I'm not a big fan of the spell package. There's other spells I'd rather see and have, I think. So, but maybe that's just me being picky. So, interesting deck. Definitely cool to see both the legendaries in the same deck. That's the first time I've seen anyone pair them together and play against it. I haven't played against it, but seen it played anyhow. So, we will see here the next deck. This is GizmoLightning's deck, Carly's deck, and I will say right off the bat, I like this Varia half better than Bryce's. So Bryce should try to get this Varia half for his deck, because I like it a lot better. So she has a Varia Bloodshade half. I like the Tempest spell package. It's got Lightning Ritual as well, but I like the other spells, the Warbringer Ritual, Ice Storm, even Firestorm a little bit, not so much, but it does have a shard. She does have a shard back to potentially use that Firestorm to proc it. So there is that. Not entirely sure what the Aloyan deck is going for so much, other than it's got a Shardbound Vexer, Traveler's favorite card. So obviously reducing attack to 0, then destroying it. You got Varia doing it. You got Shardbound Vexer doing it. But there's nothing else in the deck really lowering attack. So there's a lot of other Aloyan decks, I think, that could reduce attack across the board a lot better. So I don't like the Aloyan half. Just not sure what it's trying to do. Just looks like your average set to Aloyan half deck, really. I guess Duplication Dome perhaps has something for it, for the pump, and maybe at the level 3 doing additional procs of the deployability, but I'm not positive. So, but a very, very nice Varia half. The Tempest half is really nice in my opinion. It might be the best Varia half I've seen so far. So I haven't seen a whole bunch of them, but this might be the best one. She's got a windy creature in there, a rolling creature, a shard back, Flame Blade's a good creature, so I like it. Next up, we have Anovis. Oops. And so he's got a Darkheart Sorcerer. He's got a Shambler. He's got a Devouring Creature, a Stitcher, a Harvester. He's got a Mantis in here. He's got a good Necreum spell package, although it's only 3 spells. And the Terra spells are just so-so. Not really that great. I'm not big on Lead the Charge and Pax Blessing for spells. So it feels like the Necreum half carries this. It also seems like they're likely Darkforge draining into one of their breakthrough creatures, which is not bad. I just think there's a lot of better options for that style of deck to do it with. I don't know, and maybe this is the best he's got with it, with a Mantis or a Forge Seal. I don't know. Without Darkheart Sorcerer, there's not a whole lot of life gain in the deck, so something like Swamp Moss Lurker is just kind of meh. He does have obviously Stitcher and Harvester, so he could potentially bring back, reanimate some stuff, but it's just I'd say it feels like a mid-tier Necreum Utera set 1 deck. Could it go off? Certainly could. You know, Devouring Geist is really nice. You have obviously a Shambler. You have a Dark Art Sorcerer. So a lot of good Necrium cards. He's got a Reaper. Really, everything in Necrium is good except for the Apparition. The Utera half leaves a little bit to be desired, in my opinion, but a pretty good Necrium half. All right, we've got my deck, Solymr's deck. This is another Furious Shardback reanimation style deck, just like Ice Crusher. It's got a hand 2, only has 6 spells, only 3 ways to reanimate a Shardback with River Souls, Dark Pryings, and the hand 2. So not a ton of ways to bring it back, unfortunately. It does have a Teacher Master potential combo if it need to go that way, although I will say every time I've played it, it's never really been a thing. Maybe one time I had them out there together doing things, but you know, my version of this deck can pump my Shardbacks with Charger Mammoth or the Brood Geist. So that's a little bit of an advantage. I don't have as many ways to proc the Shardback, but I don't feel like I need as many ways. Commanders are pretty stout in their own right, and it's a Furious Shardback, so I'm getting a couple procs automatically. I do have a Windy Creature to help move things off the board. I don't think the deck is consistent enough for the big stage, but it does pose a problem for decks that don't have good removal. I feel like the deck needs too many cards to level up before it can hit its stride, and that can be a problem sometimes, but it's not bad. It's definitely a frustrating deck to play against. So I like it, but I don't think it's good enough. And then lastly, we have Traveler's deck. So Peter's playing his favorite. It's funny how he was the anti-RSE guy, and now all he plays is RSE, it seems like. So he's playing RSE, of course, and he's got it paired with a double Shamble, double Vampiric deck. He's got good removal options with the spells, other than Firestorm, but that can be useful with the Shardback, Shamblers, Thundersoar. So it's not even a bad card in this deck, because he can use it to do all sorts of things for himself. Of course, it's got a Furious Shardback in it, so Furious Shardback Nova Elementalist decks, hard to come by, really good pairing, really nice combination to have. You have 2 of the Tempest power cards in the same deck, really nice. In his Necrium deck, he's got a Blight Witch Relentless Wanderers combination, but he's only got 7 spells, so it's a little light in that regard, so there might not always be opportunities for him to take advantage of that. Not to mention he's got to have them both out there on the board and then draw the spells, but and there's a lot of good creatures for him to want to play, potentially instead of spells. Depending on what he's trying to do, if he's trying to flip the RSE, playing a Vampiric creature, or does he want to play a Shambler? So he's got a lot of options of things he may want to be doing depending on what he draws each turn. The only thing with this deck I can see that's bad about it is I can see it getting in its own way. Maybe there's too many good cards to want to play. You can't play your whole hand. How you attack this deck is going to be up to each player and what they're playing and what their strengths are. You obviously don't necessarily want to leave the Blight Witch out there for him to get free spells to play. He's got a lot of good creatures. Him sacking his creatures with Blight Witch is going to help his Shamblers go off. He can, of course, flip RC when he wants with Vampiric creatures. Doesn't have to wait for anything else. He can just do it on his own. So he's got a lot of options. He's got removal options with Ice Storm, Disintegrate, Dreadbolt, Spirit Leash. He can pump all his creatures with Burnout and fill a lane. Wrath's Will can be free if he gains any health. So it's got really good cards. His Necrim half, I'm not big on the Apparition, but it is shambling, so it is good, and it can proc itself when it comes out by destroying a creature. The Moeba is trash at level 1 always, but then its level 2 gets really good sized, and its level 3 is okay, but it has aggressive, so all his Necrim cards are good and or useful. His Tempest cards are all they're all good and or useful. So Tortoise Colossus can be aggressive. Raging Colossus is aggressive. Thundersoar, of course, can be an issue. Iceland's Magus can do some work. So even, like I said, even the Firestorm, which is one of my less favorite Tempest spells, I won't say it's the worst spell, but he has uses for it with Thundersoar, Shardback, Shambling creatures, so he can use that to not only damage your board state, but also potentially hit you for a ton of damage or pump up his board state. So he's got a lot of good cards in here. The only thing I can see with the deck is he gets in his own way with too many good cards to choose from, and maybe he doesn't level up the right card every time. And later on in a match, it comes back to haunt him. But doubtful. So this is a really, really good fuse. Both half decks are great in their own right, looking at them. And they may work together in this, right? But they also may work better with different pairs on their own, too. So I'm sure he's tested with other things with them just to see, but definitely a really, really strong deck. Probably the best one in this circuit. So he'll lose access to it when he wins the whole thing. So, but okay. So, yeah, that's the JedForge Competitive Circuit. That's the first one. When this one wraps up, Jed will start another one, and he'll be the first 16 to sign up, and you'll just play your matches as they come, and you bring your best deck. Bring what you want to test out against competitive decks. So we'll see how this finishes out. Of course, as we get farther down the line, I'll be covering it in my other videos. But my money's on Peter to win the whole thing. I think Carl has the second best deck, and then not sure who's got the third best deck. I think all of the remaining decks, obviously, any of them that draw really good, really well, can do really well, but I think they all lack consistency, and consistency is what wins in SolForge Fusion. So find that consistency. That's what I gotta say. But yeah, it's been fun so far, and I'm looking forward to some more matches. Hopefully I win whoever I get next, and advance on and keep playing and go as far as I can. But if not, I'll be looking forward to the second circuit that he puts up. So yeah, so that's the JedForge Competitive Circuit. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at the decks with me. Feel free to leave comments on your thoughts on people's decks. Do you agree, disagree? Is there something I missed that I completely did not see when I looked at the decks? It's possible. Let me know, and let me know if you guys think anyone's going to beat Peter or not. So, all right, take it easy. See you guys around.